I'm Ellis Martin. Could sodium chloride or salt-based solid-state batteries replace lithium-ion batteries or add to the choices for energy storage? Might these batteries be the perfect solution for grid storage? We're going to find out today. Join me now as we take a virtual trip to Perth, Australia to visit with Iggy Tan, the Managing Director of Altech Batteries Limited, trading as ATC on the ASX, and of the US on the OTC as ALTHF. Altech Batteries is commercializing a 100 megawatt-hour solid-state sodium chloride battery production facility and is also at the cutting edge of developing battery materials for a lithium-ion battery future by successfully incorporating silicon in graphite anodes to produce higher energy density batteries. Mr. Tan is a highly experienced mining and chemical executive with a number of significant achievements in commercial mining projects such as capital raisings, funding, construction, startups, and operations. Mr. Tan has over 30 years of chemical and mining experience and has been an executive director of a number of ASX-listed companies. Iggy, you and I go back a few years. I'm going to ask questions I already know the answers to, but let's assume our audience knows zero about sodium-nickel-chloride solid-state batteries. What are they?
Sodium-nickel-chloride batteries is a unique chemistry that one of the biggest benefit is totally fireproof. Sodium-nickel-chloride batteries uses common table salt, sodium chloride, and it's solid state technology, so it hasn't got the liquid electrolyte that a normal lithium battery has. And consequently, with the solid state technology and not having that flammable liquid electrolyte, it is totally fireproof. It doesn't suffer from thermal runaway. And one of the big advantages of these batteries is that it can operate in minus 40 degrees or up to 60 degrees in the desert conditions. So it doesn't require cooling or heating. They are very robust batteries. And the battery world are very interested in these batteries because of recent fires in data centers and so on, and explosive environments.
I didn't know this term until I did a little bit of research. When I saw UPS connected with your company, I was thinking, okay, that's trucks delivering packages all over the world, but UPS actually means uninterruptible power supply. Why is that so important?
Yeah, uninterrupted power supply or batteries, so UPS batteries, are all over the world because when you have a power shortage, you want to have critical systems that keep running. They may be simple systems like fire detection and alarms, but also control valves. They want control systems to run when there's a power blackout. They want various safety things to keep operating when you lose power. So it's an uninterrupted power, and you probably would have it in your home to protect maybe your computer. But when you talk about UPS batteries in explosive environments, I think in the States they call X zones, and essentially they are environments like oil and gas platforms, gas pipelines. They could be in chemical refineries where there are a lot of flammable materials around. They could even be in food processing or pharmaceutical processing where there's a combustible gas, dust. When you're trying to put a UPS battery in those environments, lithium-ion batteries are basically banned from those environments because of the fire risks. So the alternative are really lead-acid batteries and nickel-cadmium batteries, as well as this SNC batteries, the sodium-nickel-chloride batteries. Now, there are a bit of disadvantages with lead-acid batteries. They tend to generate hydrogen. They have to be housed in buildings that have air conditioning, and they constantly have to be checked to make sure they don't run down when they're fully charged. Same with nickel-cadmium batteries. They have regular maintenance. They have to be housed in buildings, and they have very large footprints. But with SNC batteries, they are totally fireproof, number one, and they virtually can stay charged for years and never lose that charge at all. We call it float life. We have service data from South Africa where these batteries have been in operation for 12 years, and the failure rate is a very low 0.6 of 1%. So they virtually stay charged, and you can leave those batteries there and rely on that for instant power when you need it in any sort of conditions, down to the relative cold environments, snow environments, or even the desert conditions. So that's a big advantage, and that's why we're starting our marketing in that area.
Now, this isn't just a concept. You've got a battery plant with Fraunhofer in Germany, don't you?
Just to give you a bit of background, this chemistry has been around since the 80s. So it's not a new chemistry. But what we've been doing with the Fraunhofer Institute in Germany is we are expanding the original Zebra batteries, a smaller type batteries with the same chemistry, into 2.5 times bigger into a tube battery. And this is ideal for the energy storage market, where we are putting large batteries on grids to stabilize the grids, particularly when you're using renewable energy. The sun doesn't shine at night, so you can charge these batteries up and then discharge it during the night and provide that power over the 24 hours. So that's the work we are doing with the Fraunhofer Group. But recently we announced a joint venture or a cooperation agreement with a Chinese producer called Ampower, who are already making these Zebra batteries and already producing these UPS batteries. So the agreement is that we will market the product under our brand name, Altech Batteries, to the US, Europe, and Australia. So we have the full rights to sell these batteries. And of course, Ampower is teaming up with us because we have the reach in those countries and we understand the markets and the qualification process for these batteries. And that's essentially why they're working with us. Their benefit is that if we sell more batteries, their production rate goes up and the cost of the unit of the batteries come down. So they get a big benefit as well. So that's a very exciting announcement. We are now starting to market these UPS batteries as the first phase. We've got a couple of new business development managers announced, one in Europe and one in Australia. They have a lot of experience in these grid transmission lines and batteries and renewable market. And so we're looking forward to now starting to roll some of these UPS batteries out into the market.
We have quite a few power outages here in Southern California and a lot of sunshine, by the way. And when the power goes out, really there's nothing we can do but wait it out. And it happens often. You said your intention was to bring these batteries into the United States. I know you're primarily operating in Europe. You're an Australian company. Explain how this would potentially come to California, and considering that even now there's definitely an issue with regard to tariffs on Chinese goods and vice versa.
California is a good example. A lot of electricity generated from solar and wind. The BESS market, or the energy storage market, is growing. They expect that it's going to be 14 times bigger than the EV market. And essentially, the concept is very simple. If you can have these big batteries on the grid, and during the day, they can charge these batteries up. When there's a power failure, you can discharge the power into the grid, or at night, you can discharge the power to the grid. The energy storage is the missing link in renewable energy, and with solar and wind, energy storage is the missing link. And because of the price of lithium batteries coming down, they are now commercial enough to start to install it. So there's a big demand for these large ESS batteries, and they will start to be rolled out all around the world. And companies like CATL and BYD, they believe that grid storage batteries is going to be the demand of the future. Now, our batteries are very similar to that, but our niche customer is someone that cannot have a lithium battery in their system. So they may be in an area where lithium batteries are banned because of the risk of fire. And that is our niche market. If you can't put a lithium battery in, or the insurance cost is so high, you're prepared to pay a little bit more for a much safer battery, which is our batteries, which nearly is close to 15-year life and beyond. Totally fireproof, as I mentioned. The biggest advantage is this: there's no maintenance cost. There's no air conditioners to it. There's no cooling fans. When you look at the life of the battery, which we call the levelized costs of a battery, our levelized cost is actually half, even though the initial capital outlay might be higher. But overall, our niche market is people that cannot have a lithium battery in their system.
Look, typical lithium-ion batteries do have a carbon footprint. What is your projected carbon footprint per kilowatt hour of your batteries in a manufacturing plus operation, like you mentioned, compared to typical lithium-ion batteries?
Yeah, so in a lithium-ion battery, on the anode side, you've got copper as the collector, you've got graphite, and on the cathode side, you've got aluminium, you've got all the cathode materials like lithium, it may be manganese, it may be nickel, there might be cobalt, etc. All these materials need to be mined, processed, and developed into that lithium battery. There's a lot of carbon footprint around all those materials. Essentially, our battery is just a ceramic tube, which is just alumina. And within the tube is sodium chloride, salt. We have nickel metal powder, there is some carbon footprint on it. And then essentially it's stainless steel casing and so on. We have calculated carbon footprint of our batteries is essentially half that of a lithium battery. And this has been confirmed with Standard & Poor when they assess our battery or our project as a dark green project, which is the highest environmental category you can give any project because of the much, much lower carbon footprint.
What about offtake agreements or government partnerships? Are they already in place?
Yeah, we've got 3 offtake partners for the German project. They are groups that are in Germany that are establishing some of these energy islands. So they've got solar panels, they've got wind power, and they need the battery side. And these people have a preference for a much safer battery. So the offtake side is done. The project itself, we are now moving to the funding stage. We're talking to various banks and they are going through the due diligence process. So we're looking forward to trying to resolve the project finance. We recently also announced a grant, which is called the Stark grant. And I think it was 56 million euros. So that will be part of the funding mix to get the project up and running.
And you just raised about $6 million to accelerate UPS sales, am I right?
Yeah, so we recently announced a $6 million Aussie raise. The placement was oversubscribed. There's a lot of interest in the market. And the use of funds is essentially building a second prototype of a 90 kilowatt battery, but mainly establishing the sales system for the Empower deal and getting some of these UPS batteries out into the market. Since we announced that, there has been a lot of interest and a lot of reach out from various groups that want to trial these UPS batteries.
When can we see real revenue to the company?
One of the main targets is the gas infrastructure in Europe. So just to give you a bit of a background, particularly somewhere like Netherlands, there is a lot of hydrogen infrastructure or gas infrastructure. And a lot of these UPS batteries that are lead acid are coming up for renewal. And because they don't generally last that long, they have to be checked regularly. We have now developed a product that is 384 volts, 15 kilowatt hours that can actually just slot into a renewable of a lead acid battery. You pull the lead acid battery up, drop our SNC battery in. You don't have to do anything with the battery management systems. It's essentially a plug and play. And we see that as a long-term market. And we will have a product for factory testing in Q1 next year. And then we'll start to roll that out into some potential customers in Europe. So we're getting a lot of interest, but the first step is getting a model to operate in a factory because the UPS batteries are being made today. It's a specific design for this market. And once the factory acceptances are passed, we will start to roll them out into the fields. I would say by Q2 next year, we will start to see some major tick in the revenue line. But of course, we can start selling some of these batteries right now as well.
You've come a long way in the last year and a half or so when I was speaking with you and also Martin Stein. Congratulations on that. I'm very excited about the potential for the company. Tell us about the potential investment opportunity right now for those who are not shareholders for the company.
Altech Batteries is a great exposure to a lot of the technology plays that are around. Companies like Hyperion X and MTM, they're talking about technology around the energy transition and some of the critical minerals that are important for that. We have a unique niche in that our batteries are totally fireproof and can operate in very extreme environments. That is a very important benefit, and no lithium battery can claim to be totally fireproof. We have done all the safety tests. We've thrown the battery into fires. We've dropped it from 30 meters. We've run it over with a truck. We've fired it with a shotgun. Basically, nothing happens to the battery because essentially it's solid state technology. So that's a big advantage. And I think potential investors can get exposure to a very exciting technology.
As I understand it, you mentioned critical minerals, critical metals. Your process doesn't really require any of that. You get to escape that big supply chain crunch right now.
Exactly. That is a big advantage. We're not requiring some of these key critical minerals. We do use nickel in our batteries, but most of it is just common table salt, alumina, which is used for ceramic making, and just stainless steel. It's really a very exciting opportunity.
Iggy, thanks so much for joining me today in the program. I expect to speak with other members of your dream team in the future.
All right. Thank you.
I've been speaking with Iggy Tan, Managing Director of Altech Batteries Limited, trading on the ASX as ATC, and in the US on the OTC as ALTHF. Visit the company's website, altechgroup.com. Questions, comments? Head to our website, ellismartinreport.com. I'm Ellis Martin.
Subscribe to the Ellis Martin newsletter. It's free. Go to ellismartinreport.com and fill out the quick and easy pop-up form.